Good morning, boys and girls. It's me, Mrs. Michelle. It is so good to see you. I miss seeing you, but I'm so happy that I can do a story with you right now. I hope that you're all doing well, and I have something quite special. So come closer so that you can see. And I wanted to start our day off with the giggles because we can all use a little bit of laughter right now. So I have a joke of the day, and it goes like this. Why don't teddy bears eat much? Any guesses? Well, they don't because they're already stuffed. Did you get it? All right, well, I will save another Get the Giggles for another day, but it is something very special going on. It's springtime, and because it's springtime, we might be working in the garden and doing some planting, and I have a story that I want to share with you. It's called Two Little Gardeners. When I'm finished with the story, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about some of the things that we see in it, talk about some comprehension questions. What did we learn? What did we see? What did we notice? And then I have a very fun journal prompt for you. I'll do my journal and model that for you, but then you can go and write and draw and do your very best in your journal. So let's get started with our story. It is springtime, and this story is called Two Little Gardeners. The author is Margaret Wise Brown and Edith Thatcher Hurd. Two people wrote this story together. It's illustrated by Gertrude Elliott. And when I look at it, I notice that illustrator used a lot of details. Just looking at the front cover, I see some animals, I see some critters, some little insects hiding. Can you see some hiding insects? And I see two kiddos, which looks like they have done a lot of work in that garden. The boy is working, the girl is working, and things are growing. So I'm thinking that this book must be about all the hard work and different kinds of fruits and vegetables that they grew. Let's find out. Spring! The snow melted, a snowdrop came up, a robin hopped, and the worm turned in the ground. The groundhog cast his shadow, remember the groundhog? And the two little gardeners came out of their house to plant their garden. They turned the earth with a shovel and a fork. Well, I'm thinking that's not a fork that we eat with. This looks like the shovel, and I think this is more of a gardening fork that they were using. And then they chopped up the earth with a hoe. There's your hoe right there. That must be the shovel. And they smoothed out the lumps with a rake. It was soft and smooth with only little lumps in it. At last it was time to plant round little radish seeds, thin black lettuce seeds, round wrinkled pea seeds, flat pumpkin seeds, squash seeds, and flat lima bean seeds, and tiny parsley seeds and tomato plants and potato eyes. Interesting. Then the rain came and the sun shone and the wind came softly blowing through the night. And the rain and the snow and the soft winds in the night brought little green sprouts sprouting out through the ground. Radishes popped up and the parsley curled. And underground, the beets turned red and the carrots grew yellow and the potato sprouts grew bigger. Look at the vegetables growing underground. The radishes, the corn, then the potatoes, they're growing beneath, aren't they? The worms turned the earth over. The moles dug about. And a little mouse built a nest in the grass roots near a rabbit hole. And beautiful vegetable flowers. I'm sorry, boys and girls, I'm going to read that again. And beautiful vegetable flowers came out. Yellow tomato flowers, big yellow squash flowers, red bean flowers. So these vegetables had some flowers growing with them. White pea flowers and potatoes flowers, all full of bees, their friends, the bees. And the weeds came too, and they dug, and they grew, and they grew, and they grew. Prickly weeds, tall weeds, feathery weeds, and they grew, and they grew, and they grew. And the two little gardeners said, "This will never do." And they hoed out the weeds. There's all the weeds growing, growing, growing. Not good. Then the sun shone better and hotter. No rain, so they came with their hose and sprinkled the rows till the dusty dirt was all dark and damp and wet. And the vegetables grew and grew, and they grew and they grew. Some grew so high the two little gardeners had to put up little fences for the peas to grow on, and tall poles for the beans to climb up, and the sticks for the tomatoes to lean on. And they made little hills to hold up the corn. So some of this is growing very, very tall. Then came the little birds and the fur animals, the gardeners who only come to eat and who come to eat too soon. There were too many creatures in the garden, so the two little gardeners built a big, flippy, floppy scarecrow and a funny, fierce-footed rabbit-mole to frighten away certain rabbits and groundhogs and squirrels and moles and field mice who had come to eat up the garden. So that is a great creature they made right here. He's a robo. They called him a robo mole. Whew, he will scare those critters away. Then the garden grew and grew and grew. The corn tassels blossomed, and the pumpkin got fat, and the beans grew long, and the carrots pushed up through the ground, and the cabbage looked great like great green roses all in a row. Day after day, something was ripe and ready to pick. So the two little gardeners came with their baskets, and they picked and they picked and they picked pumpkins and parsnips, peppers and cabbages, and beans off the poles, and potatoes deep down in the ground, and the corn from the tall green corn stalks, until everything was picked. And they cooked and they cooked and they cooked and they cooked pumpkins and potatoes and parsley, corn and cabbage and beans until everything was cooked. And they ate and they ate and they ate cabbage and carrots and cauliflower, beets and beans and long ears of corn until they were full. But they couldn't eat it all, so they put some things in cans and jars and bottles and stored them away on the shelves. The onions were dried and hung in big bunches. The carrots were stored in big tubs. There was a bin for potatoes and a bin for pumpkins, and on a high dry shelf for squash. Then the little gardeners rested and sat quietly. So boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed that story. I have a few questions I wanted to ask you about that story. Did you see some insects in the garden? Me too. What kind did you see? And I'm wondering, do you think they helped the garden or hurt it? Take a minute, talk about it with your mom and dad. And then I have another question. Did you see any animals in the garden? Do you think they helped the garden or do you think they hurt it? And what was your favorite vegetable that was planted? I would like you to take a minute and do a journal. Now you can do this journal. If you have an old journal that we sent home, you can write in that, or you can just get a piece of paper. But my question is, if, I'm gonna put this right here, if you could plant a garden, what would you plant and why? Now, you know that Mrs. Michelle's journal page, we always talk about this, does not look like yours. But I would probably say something like, I'm going to have to hold this up. I need my Alpha Friends and my Power Words, which you can find in your Google Classroom right in the resource section. Okay, make those Power Words work for you. Make those Alpha Friends work for you. I am going to make a space. Sound out wood. It sounds like a U. Would. I'm going to put the book word right here. It's W-O-U-L-D. But that's what I hear. Oh, help, Alpha Friends. Pole. Corn, because Mrs. Michelle likes corn. I would plant corn. Thanks, Alpha Friends. And there's a power word. Air. Oh, there's an A. I don't really hear it. Care. Boy, it sounds like an it. And it's more than one. I'm going to write the real word down here. Okay. Because, and that's A-U-S-E, I like, power word, to eat. You ready for this? I'm going to trick you. Popcorn, because I can make popcorn from corn. And I'm going to put an exclamation point. And you know, up here, Mrs. Michelle is going to use all of her colors to draw a beautiful illustration like our illustrator did in the story. I may just even add sun and clouds and dirt and my plants growing and me eating it, but my video is going to run out of time, so I can't do that. So I will do that and then surprise you with my picture on my next video. Okay, you guys, it was fun doing story time with you. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you all again very soon. Talk to you soon. Bye.